What's up guys, Houndish here, and today, Ash and... Well, we had the launch of Ash and Iron, didn't we? In this one, we get a few words from the game director for Ash and Iron, Mr. Weasel. Of course, that's a joke. What is not a joke is that Bungie have legitimately added a Weasel era mask for Festival of the Lost this year, which will be the most suitable piece of gear you could possibly equip at a time like this. We're going to talk about Ash and Iron bugs. Bungie clarify quite a few things about some issues in the game right now. We'll also discuss player feedback about this content drop, and then there are some extra bits of clarification from Bungie about Renegades. And for those who are patient, Bungie break down a list of fairly big changes that they're going to be making to systems in the game that of course affects power leveling, rewards, and even Bungie's approach to actually updating Destiny 2, where they're essentially saying, we promise we are going to make it right. There'll also be highly customizable weapons in Renegades. Bungie talk about the launch of the new dungeon and a handful of other things which we'll round up today, so you'll have to give me your impressions on everything that's been shown off this week and of course released into the game with Ash and Iron. Drop those thoughts in the comment section, but now let's get into it. There's been a lot of conversation about the fact that Bungie added a Taken armor set to the Eververse store, along with a Taken shader, something we've been asking for a long time, but of course instead of a gameplay reward, these will be silver purchases. There's also a lot of conversation about prices being increased in the store. Otherwise, like we said, the Weasel mask is coming in Festival of the Lost 2025, but one of the big components players were looking for, of course, was the exotic mission for Ash and Iron. DMG confirms the team is still finishing up development on the mission. We'd launch it today if we could, but the official launch date for it will actually be October 7th. So a few weeks away from now, although the exotic axe does look pretty cool. Otherwise, short-term roadmap for events. Iron Banner will be the week of September 16th, so that'll be next week, and then Arms Week focuses on shotguns from October 17th, and Festival of the Lost will run during the weeks of October 21st and 28th. On top of that, while these events are active, there's a small chance to receive the new crossbow weapon that Bungie have released. Also, Festival of the Lost armor that we voted for this year, looking pretty juicy right there. But onto Ash and Iron itself. In terms of the general scope of the update, I'll be completely honest, it's a little bit more than I thought Bungie were actually going to do for a free update. I'm not saying it's the best thing we've ever had though, and of course that feedback is echoed in the community. The reclaim activity is definitely pretty basic. It's cool to be back in the Plaguelands, but the general quality bar against other activities which are similar, maybe even things like the Nether, it's definitely obvious that Bungie have put less focus into this, which again is kind of understandable, but it comes at a time where players are desperate for new stuff to do. There are new weapons and things, we covered those in a separate video yesterday, so I'll link that down below. But for things to be aware of in Ash and Iron, Bungie have said there's an issue where some armor pieces are displaying an incorrect stat instead of a power level. This is a visual bug and will not affect the gear's performance. So if you get something dropped and it shows a level like, I don't know, 40 something, then it's probably displaying one of the pieces of gear's stats as opposed to its actual power level. Just keep that in mind. Now though, a brief message from our sponsor today. Something that should get more coverage are ways to improve your cardiovascular and stem cell health. Stem cells are like tiny repair crews that help to fix your body. However, of course, most stem cell treatments are crazy expensive. But the good thing is that there are ways to naturally promote healthy stem cells such as cocoa flavanols. There's evidence that cocoa flavanols can help to release stem cells and that they assist cardiovascular health, which is backed up by Harvard scientist Dr. William Lee.
If you take the really dark chocolate, like 73% cacao, and you make it into a high flavanol hot chocolate drink, and you have it twice a day. This was a clinical study. They found in people who wound up actually drinking the hot chocolate twice a day over the course of a month, they doubled the number of stem cells compared to the people who didn't drink hot chocolate.
Today's sponsor, Black Forest Supplements, have a high flavanol cocoa powder which preserves all the beneficial ingredients. I mix this with protein powder or coffee in the morning, and it gives me a good boost. Plus, it's only 20 calories per serving. It's a quality supplement that helps support your journey to better health. And right now, our friends at Black Forest Supplements have hooked us up with a huge 40% discount for the next 48 hours. So it's totally worth checking out. Hit the link in the description, get your discount while it lasts, and thanks to Black Forest for sponsoring the video. Also, largely, there have not really been any power leveling changes yet in Ash and Iron. The grind up to the pinnacle cap, or the point where we start going for the final 50 levels, is pretty much the same as what it was before, with the exception of a small boost from Prime drops, but if you're looking to level up, we'll largely be doing the same thing that we were doing previously. Although for the final 50 levels, Bungie are essentially removing the component where we have to get Primes to actually level up, and that will be starting at some point in the next couple of weeks with the next update to the game. So just keep that in mind. It's unfortunate that these changes have not landed at the same time as Ash and Iron itself. Otherwise, Bungie have said due to an issue where inspecting the holofoil versions of Folded Root and Romantic Death are causing crashes on Xbox, we've temporarily disabled the holofoil version of those weapons. Ultimately, they'll change the visuals on them to stop this bug from occurring. This keeps happening with pieces of gear. Certain visuals that seem to cause major issues on especially console platforms. I'm not sure what the technical problem is that appears to be recurring here, but separately, Bungie have deployed a mitigation for an issue causing players to softlock in the reclaim activity when moving to a new zone, and players will now be able to self-revive, plus additional revive tokens are granted when transitioning. There's also an issue where players with a full consumables inventory won't receive the chronologs when purchasing archived passes. That's in the new tab for previous season passes, and they say players are advised to ensure that they have at least one open slot in the consumables inventory in order to receive the currency. But yeah, overall, Ashen Iron is a very basic update. Again, honestly, it's a bit more than what I thought we were going to get for a free update, to be totally honest, but obviously, a lot of the power leveling changes that players really want are not here yet. That affects reward tiers, which also makes some rewards right now less enticing. And outside of that, we have a very basic reclaim loop, and then some activities. I've also seen reports that some of the older things which have been added to Fireteam and Pinnacle Ops, again, have very short timers. Bungie, what do I say? Just stop! In generally more positive news though, there was also the reveal for Renegades. Now, one of the things that really stood out about this is the marketing push that Bungie are initiating for this. Having a Vidoc and also the trailer footage and stuff being incredibly polished, about as polished as we've ever seen for Destiny. It kind of makes sense because they have this big new collaboration with Lucasfilm. And it's kind of a weird feeling looking at Renegades. If you are really not a fan of Star Wars crossing over into the Destiny universe, then I think that will probably affect how much you like the look of Renegades. Because on the visual side at the very least, it is incredibly strong. One thing that Renegades appears to have working to its advantage though, potentially, is while there aren't typical sort of traditional explorable destinations, Bungie are going to be doing this PvE extraction style component to the worlds, which, given the interaction between that and some of the factions that they've spoken about, and us kind of building notoriety with these different factions on Tharsis, potentially is some of the more innovative content that we've actually had in Destiny 2 in the last couple of years. So in a lot of ways, this is a very mixed bag. They've also revealed things like the highly customizable lightsaber, which kind of seems like it's going to be Ergo Saber in some ways, right? Kind of like Ergo Sum, but with this new weapon type. And then with us being able to go down to these destinations to kind of farm loot and then attempt to extract it, Bungie have said there will be a component where players can actually invade those worlds, although the invasion portion is optional, so you can opt in to have invaders actually be able to land in your game, which is good, because I know some players really wouldn't like it. Obviously, gameplay will speak for itself when we actually get to it, but I really do like the visual treatments that they've done on enemies and these factions in Tharsis. And whether you like Star Wars or not is one thing, but the mashup between the two franchises definitely, on a visual level, has been implemented pretty well. It will, however, be interesting to see how the narrative for this plays out and how Bungie actually avoid it ending up being very cheesy. We'll just have to wait and see. Bungie do confirm, though, clarification from the stream, the Renegades dungeon is not day one. So I'm assuming one of the devs said that. I actually missed it, but the dungeon is planned for the second week. The specific date may shift, but dungeon won't be dropping on day one or even week one, which personally I think is a good thing. It gives more players an opportunity to get through the bulk of the initial story and everything to actually level up and get some gear before that dungeon drops. Bungie have committed to updating the game though, in terms of systems, between now and when Renegades drops, and this is gonna be a process, right? I appreciate that Destiny updates seem to take a relatively long time, and if you want to continue playing Destiny at this point, at best it's gonna be a building process between where we are right now and what we'll get in 3 months' time. But generally, they're committing to faster power climb, reward buffs for fireteam activities, improvements to raid and dungeon content, as well as a rework for bonus engrams, basically to make that stuff more rewarding. They're also looking to introduce more weekly rituals. These come in the form of Vanguard orders, weekly bonus engrams, weekly conquest rewards, which are going to bring them back to more of a sort of Grandmaster Nightfall level of replayability, and then weekly legacy raids and dungeons, which they have said won't immediately get new updated loot. I think that's a big shame, and it'll just be something for players to complain about, to be honest. I'd rather they actually hold off and update the rewards first, but give me your thoughts. Otherwise, there's a rework to the seasonal hub with these Vanguard orders, which is basically a new bounty system that allows players to target specific types of rewards, and there'll be the reward track there as well. But they've said all exotic weapons and armor will become featured gear moving forward. That's a big plus. They're also going to let us enhance legendary weapon tiers in Shadow and Order, which drops in March 2026, but they've said you'll be able to take a tier 1 weapon all the way up to tier 5 by using a new currency. They'll also remove the featured gear score bonus, so if you want to use your old weapons from last year when leveling up in Renegades, it will no longer affect your score. That's a very good thing, and also given that they're allowing us to keep our featured gear from Edge of Fate and Ashen Iron, basically allowing it to remain relevant in Renegades. I do kind of wonder what else they can actually do with featured gear and whether the mechanic in general is going to be necessary. But of course, they're increasing vault space, and they say they'll pause non-critical nerfs and balance changes. I totally agree with this because the amount of time that appears to be being wasted making certain changes that players are never going to feel, or nerfing things that are only just viable. Yeah, it's a waste of time, isn't it? So it's a good thing that they're doing that. And there was a pretty candid conversation between Bungie and the community in the live stream where they recognized that they missed the mark in numerous areas. So changes are coming, but like I said, because Bungie are reasonably slow in terms of updating Destiny 2, or because Destiny 2 is difficult to update, whichever one it really is, this will be a rebuild process. And I think there'll be a lot of players that just have sort of tapped out for the moment and may come back when Renegades releases, but Bungie are going to have to do some significant lifting across the board. Renegades is going to have to be absolutely brilliant, and the vast majority of the portal and the kind of reward system issues in the game right now are going to have to be improved, or should we say fixed. They have to make the game feel better to win back trust from any players at this point. For the moment though, that is what we have to talk about today, so a more in-depth roundup of things going on at the moment. If you've enjoyed the video at least, a rating below very much helps us out. Again, give us your impressions on all of the content drops. I'm going to play a bit more of Ashen Iron today and check out more of the rest of the game in the portal and see how things are feeling, but yeah, I totally get it. Some things have taken one step forward, some things have taken a couple of steps back, and it definitely isn't the sweeping level of change that players expect, so disappointment is understandable. Give me your thoughts below though. If you want to be kept up to date with things coming down the road in Renegades, hit subscribe. Also, another shout out to our sponsor Black Forest. Don't forget you can get a big discount for the next 48 hours if you use my link down below. Totally worth checking that out, as well as all of the other supplements they have on offer in the store. Otherwise though, cheers for watching and I'll catch you guys very soon.